Hey guys, I hope everyone is having a happy Saturday. I would show you guys, I would say hi on camera, but I actually just got back from the gym and I'll spare you guys what I look like. So I'm just pulling up the live on my computer really quickly so that I can see your comments as they come in and answer any questions. And so for those of you who don't know, I am Geeji. I am from Belize, and as you can see from my not so great flood right now, we actually just entered our rainy season, and so I kind of have to keep my air conditioning in my cookie room running if I want to get, you know, those nice, smooth, pretty floods. And I forgot to do that for these cookies. I usually always do it for customers' orders, but I forgot to do it for these cookies. And so, not my best flood, but we are going to cover all of that up. So, okay. I am now in it on my computer, so we are good. Okay, so today I thought that we could go over one of my favorite ways to do detailed designs that are, you can charge pretty good amount for them. Let me see if I can show you guys the example on my iPad of what this is going to look like once it's done. So these are my hexagon puzzles. I definitely didn't come up with the idea, and there you can find a lot of different examples of them on, you know, YouTube. And so I will have my reference image here that I drew up. So this is what we are going to be doing. So definitely you want to have your reference image close by. And like I mentioned, these are pretty simple to do in my opinion, but because they look kind of detailed to customers, you can you know, charge a pretty nice amount for them for the amount of output that you are putting in. Hi Magdalena. And for anyone watching this on the replay, you can go ahead and put replay before your comment. I'm gonna go ahead and try to get all those comments answered, whether they come in on this live or whether or not you guys have it on the replay. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and jump right in there. So I'm going to be showing you guys the consistencies that I like to use when I'm doing my detailed cookies and what those should look like when they're coming out of the piping bag. And so the first one that I'm gonna start with is this kind of sage-like green. To get this color, I have this bad habit of using like 4 different brands of colors when I am doing my cookies. And so I'm not the most efficient person, and so I'm not the best person to ask when it comes to what color you want on some certain things. But for this, I believe I used Chef Master Avocado. I have this little brand here. I got it off of Amazon when I just started making cookies. It's not one of those big brands like Chef Master or Americolor that most people know, but they come in so many colors and they're really nice. They don't bleed. I never suffer with bleeding, and so I think that, you know, they are really nice colors. So for my base here, I just have 9 hexagon cookies that I flooded with, you know, flood consistency icing. You can more or less do so many different colors with these hexagon puzzles, and the great thing about them is that for packaging, you don't have to really figure out any kind of special packaging, you know, because it is a puzzle. And what my customers usually do, or what they enjoy to do, is I'll just send it in my standard boxing packaging, and they will set it up as, you know, a little activity to whoever got the cookie. So here I have that piping consistency green, and I'm just going to show you guys on my finger what that looks like coming out of the bag. And so this is the standard size hole that I do for most of my detail designs, and that, showing you again, that is the standard consistency that I like. It just flows out of the bag really nice, and it's a lot easier to work with. And so let me know if you guys have any issues seeing the full puzzle, but we're gonna go ahead and start. And so, like I mentioned, I wish I could show you guys my reference image while I'm decorating, but I am not good at this, so I do not have any idea how to do that. So I'm just going to go ahead and start, and just keep in mind that I am working from my reference image, so you have no need to do this, you know, just like freehand. Okay, so I'm gonna start over here, and I am going to be using my scribe tool, if I can find it, to cut off these sections as I go along. So I will show you what that looks like. Okay, so we're going to start here. What I like to do is I touch down at the base, and then I just pull. And a lot of people on my posts kind of ask me, oh, you know, about the detail design, and it's really just so easy. Just pull across, you know, stop one place and then pull across. The icing will basically do what it needs to do for you. Terry asked, do you have some icing in a bowl so we can see the consistency when you stir? Terry, you are so smarter than me, because that is something that I should have done. I do not, but what I will do is, once I'm done using this green, what I can do is get a bowl and squeeze it out into that bowl to before the end of the live, just to show you, you know, what that should be looking like. But thank you so much for that. I probably should have thought about that. And so once again, just pulling. And my favorite thing about these hexagon puzzles is that some of the cookies, you do not have to do much on them, and because they are sold as a set, you can, you know, I personally don't price my cookies individually. Hello Yanni, hello everyone else. I don't price my cookies as individuals, if that makes sense. Like, I do not do pricing like, oh, you know, this cookie is $5 each, $10 each. I price all my cookies as sets. And so for example, one of these hexagon puzzles would most of the time run my customers, and you can see sometimes the icing is a little bit tricky. I usually would do this, but the other thing for these hexagon cookies is that it doesn't really matter, because you can just add flowers wherever you mess up. You know, it's not a exact design that you're working on. Sorry, you kind of get what I'm saying. Like, you can add things in. It's not like if you have a plain cookie and they're like, oh, you know, put this name on the cookie, and then, you know, you can't fix things up as you go along. With this, you definitely can, just because you're kind of, I like to just have fun with my cookies. But yeah, like I was saying, I don't price my cookies as individuals. I only price by sets, and so that way I can do simple cookies as I'd like and have some more detailed cookies along with those simple cookies that, you know, make the set worth it for me. So one of these sets, I would say the average price for these hexagon puzzles that I sell them for are around 60 US. I think that's 60 US. I price in Belize, but yeah, it should be 60 US dollars, and that would include the 9 cookies, and yeah, the 9 cookies decorated with this design. And I'm not sure if that's considered expensive over there. I'm not sure if that's considered expensive or if that's considered fair. My customers go crazy for them. My Icing does not want to cooperate with me today. I would usually be doing this on a fully dry surface so that it's easier for me to clean up any mistakes. But like I mentioned, it's the rainy season here, and I really expected this base to dry, and I think I kind of misjudged it. Magdalena says, what type of consistency do you use? 20 or 25 seconds? I use toothpaste consistency for like my detailed lines. So I'm not sure whether or not that would be 20 or 25 seconds, but it's kind of like a little bit stiffer than soft serve. So it's kind of between soft serve and toothpaste, and it gives you a nice consistency for detailing, but that's not too wet, but it's also not too stiff, because if you work with stiff consistency icing for detailing, or icing that's a little bit too stiff, what I find happens is, one, your hands they are going to hurt. So that's one of the first things that's going to happen if you work with that consistency. But another thing, and I'm not sure if this is something that only happens to me, but another thing that I find happens if I work with icing that's a little bit too stiff for my detail lines is that once it dries and I am getting ready to heat seal and package, I will notice that, you know, it's easy to scrape off, if that makes sense. Like with this consistency, once this is dry, you can package and all of that, and you can stack on top of each other, and you'll have no issues there. But if I personally use a consistency that's a little bit too stiff, then I have that issue. Okay, I'm switching to a different green because for this I like to use lights and dark greens for the greenery. I think it kind of creates that depth, like it makes it look like some of the leaves are to the front while some are to the back. So I can show you guys how I cut my bags. Ignore how my scissors look. I actually had better scissors for this, but I left them outside. So for cutting my bags, I always like to cut with the seam facing towards me, and then like press that out. I know some people probably cut other ways, so they like turn it this way. personally for me, it makes it harder for me to get those nice details out, and so I'm going to do that. And then it's facing towards me. I'm going to cut about right here. I'm just going to pull it so that the tip doesn't fall on my cookies. And then just like the last one, there we go. We have this nice thin consistency coming out. And so yeah, I like to offer cookies that are what you call pretty, I guess, but don't take a lot of time, because that way my customers are able to try out my cookies for more reasonable prices than some of my other sets go for. So I'm always finding little ways to kind of come up with things that my customers can enjoy without fully breaking the bank. And I like to do these. I also like to do my bouquet cookies that I will do from time to time. And people really enjoy these kinds of cookies, I found. Well, here in Belize they do. And so yeah, so what I'm doing here is I'm just starting with the outlines of all of these leaves. Once I'm done with the leaves, I am going to go in and work on the flowers and then show you guys how we really get into the flowers. And I'm going to prove to you guys that these are really easy to do, because we should be done with this by the time this live ends. And so what really happened, this is just a really nice design to go with it. I mean, this live is going to be around an hour max, and so it was really just flooding these 9 cookies and then getting in there with all of the details within 1 hour. And it might take you a little bit longer once you're starting out. I don't know, I personally find it to be extremely easy, but my husband has been telling me recently that a lot of the things that I tell him are easy aren't that easy. But I promise, once you get these consistencies down, your icing is going to pretty much work for itself, and these things are going to be super easy. I've only been doing this, I think this August should make my 2-year. Oh, we're in August. Yeah, so I think I should be coming up on my 2-year cookie anniversary. And I remember starting out and feeling like, oh my god, am I ever going to get this consistency thing down? Consistencies were my worst nightmare. And now I think, detailing at least, that I pretty much got it. And it kind of just clicked one day. And so I promise, if you're just starting out and you're struggling with what consistency to use for detailed cookies, that you should be good to go eventually. And once it clicks, and you are going to be like a master. So this one is actually going to remain blank except for one B. And so, just like I mentioned, it's pretty easy to get away with not doing too much, but getting nice results. Okay, so I'm gonna start adding flowers over this side. I just need to add a little bit more lines. And like I said, you can use your reference images, but you can also just freestyle this once you get comfortable doing it, because I kind of just go in and do whatever I feel looks cute, I guess. So I am coming in with some piping consistency yellow. This is a bright yellow, and I'm going to just start adding these in dots right here, and just going to do this for also this consistency is a little bit looser than piping actually, so I'm going to add these dots, and then I'm going to come back and add more layers so that it has a nice volume to it. So yeah, your dots don't have to be perfect. Over this side, we do not work for perfection. I consider myself an unconventional baker. I try my best not to. When I first started out, I kinda, you know, gave myself a hard time about my cookies being extra perfect, if you'd call it that. But now I kind of just let the icing do what it wants to do. And so, okay, so I have an empty cookie here that I can show you guys to show you what this consistency looks like when it's flowing out. So I will put it in the bowl after, just so you guys get an idea of what it looks like in the bowl. But that's what it looks like coming out of the piping bag. And so we're just going to add more dots. And the reason why I like doing these is because I do not like doing regular florals. And so I will find any way possible to get out of doing, you know, your regular royal icing florals with your 103, 101 tips. I am not a fan. It's not that I don't like how they look, it's just that I am no good at it. And so any way that I can get pretty florally looking cookies out without actually having to do that, I stand by it. Okay, so we have those. Okay, so I am going to let that dry a bit before I go in with the other layer, just so that it's, you know, we can actually see the difference between both layers. I'm now coming in with my medium consistency icing. For the person who asked earlier, I think this would be considered a 25-second icing, and I'm going to use this to fill in my leaves that I did earlier. And so I like to use the push and pull method when I'm filling in leaves. And so you can see that I started from the middle there and just pushed my icing and pulled out as I got to the edge, and then slowly lifted it off. This, I guess you can do it whichever way you find best, but this is just the easiest way for me to do leaves. So yeah, again, that is our 25-second consistency icing. and we are just going to fill in all these leaves. And it's kind of hard for me to get these ones because of the angle. I don't want my hand to block the view. Usually I would work on my turntable, or at least for this part, or I'd, you know, stand up and turn around. So whatever angle you need to get in to get these designs better, you do whatever you need to do. Okay, so it may not look like much right now, but I promise it is going to look so cute once it's done. And once you make your first one and you see just how easy it is, you are going to be offering these left and right, and your customers are going to absolutely love them. And what I like about them too is you can pretty much, and this is the darker green that we used earlier. This is also a 22nd in that color, so I'm just using that for the other leaves. Yeah, you can do them in any color, and once you start offering them and your customers start, you know, realizing that they can be customized, you are going to find them to be so efficient, and you can really push out so much of them in such a short span of time. My favorite thing about these types of designs is that I totally just lost my train of thought. What? What is my favorite thing about these types of designs? Why can't I remember? Jen is asking, how do you package these? Do you heat seal them separately? Yes, I heat seal all of my cookies. And so for packaging these, let me see if I could go and grab one of my boxes really quickly to show you guys what that looks like. So this is what my packaging looks like. It's your standard box that we all use. I have my stamp there, and then I have these doilies that I place on the bottom of my boxes. And yes, I do heat seal all of them. Since it's a puzzle, they can remove the heat sealing once they get home, or once it gets to the destination, and remove all the individual cookies and then set them up as a puzzle on their own. But I do not offer any cookies without heat sealing, just because I think it's safer for me to just go ahead and heat seal them to, like, you know, cover my ground. Still trying to remember what I was going to say is my favorite thing about these types of designs. I think one of my favorite things about these types of designs is how easy they are to customize. You can literally have a template that you use for all of them in terms of design, and just change the colors. I actually did this design before in a pinkish peaches color and in a lavender, like light purple lavender color before, and they looked lovely, and they look lovely in any color. So I think that is one of my favorite things. I don't know if this is a common practice for everyone else. I don't give my customers much, how do I say this? I kind of freestyle, customize, maintain creative freedom, whichever way you wanna classify it. I don't give my customers much I don't want to say the wrong thing, but what I'm trying to say is I keep creative freedom over every set that leaves my house. I do not let customers have too much of a say, because I find that stifles my creativity, and everyone is different, and so you have to do what's good for your business and what's good for your brand, and that's just my brand. And I've had a lot of people ask me, when I post in groups and things like that, I've had a lot of people ask me, how do you get started with doing these types of designs? How do you, and the best advice I can give you guys is you kind of have to go outside of the norm, I'd say. I found that in the beginning, when I was making cookies, I was using, customers will send over inspiration and images, and you want to stay, especially when you're just starting out, I feel like you kind of want to stay with really close to what the customers are sending you. And here, I'm so bad at this, I'm so sorry guys. Here for the smaller leaves, what I am doing is just applying pressure at the base and then pulling out, and it gives you a cute little leaf with not so much effort, as I like to say. But yeah, you want to stay close to what your customers are asking you for, but you also want to build a brand for yourself, if that makes sense. You want to build designs that you like and that match your brand, because in my first few months starting off, I was mostly going with what customers were sending me, and so I wasn't able to be creative. And so I would have only, if I had remained like that, I guess what I'm trying to say is I would have only been, my creativity would have only gone as far as to changing, maybe one or two things from my customers' reference images, but I wouldn't have had my own identity and my own style if I didn't start doing my own thing, I guess is the best way to describe that. You see all of the popular pages on Instagram, and they all have a specific style, if you'll notice. I mean, one of my favorite pages that I follow on Instagram is The Miller's Wife. I think her cookies are so beautiful. I really like her aesthetic, and you can tell that it's her cookies just by looking at the picture, and that's what I'm talking about. If you are only doing exactly what your customers are sending over, you kind of can't build your own identity, because you're doing you're not able to move too much outside of that line. Jennifer says, do you have a favorite or recommended resource for your inspiration images? I do. I love Pinterest. I know a lot of people prefer Instagram, but I enjoy getting most of my inspiration images from Pinterest. I also draw a little, and so I do like to go on Google sometimes, and I'll find a picture of a real life object, and I will try to turn it into a cookie. But if you're looking for something easier, then yeah, definitely Pinterest. For these types of flowers, I'd say you can search watercolor flowers, and you should get a lot of inspiration images that you can use for these designs. And so up here now, once again, it's the same consistency. I mostly only decorate minus my flood, which is a looser flood consistency. When it comes to details, I use two consistencies, my piping and my medium consistency. And so that's the only two consistencies that you're going to be seeing here. So going to make a daisy here. And daisies are actually one of my favorite. Is this a daisy? Wait. Is the white the white one? Wait, oh my gosh. Please someone tell me that the white flowers with the yellow insides are daisies. I think they are. Yeah, but those are some of my favorite flowers to do if you're not that confident with doing florals, because it's really just an outline and then flood in. It's a lot easier to do than some of the other flowers. Okay, so I'm just going to add another line here, and like I said, you may need to add lines. Oh awesome, Maria says they're daisies, great. So you really can just add in flowers wherever you see fit. I rarely ever stick to my reference image fully, just because things look different on the actual cookies than they do when you are drawing out designs. I'm not a fan of too many empty spaces outside of the edges, so I like when the middle parts have a good amount of things going on, but the edges I'll often leave empty spaces. And then I do like to add things like little bees, little butterflies at the edges there. Okay, I need another daisy, so we are just going to add another daisy in there. And I feel so bad that I didn't bring a bowl with consistencies. Like, that should have been the first thing I thought about doing. So I'm really sorry about that, guys, but I promise before the end of the live, in case you guys want to watch back on playback and try it out yourself, I will be bringing a bowl and showing you guys these exact consistencies and how they look in a bowl. And so for the daisies, kind of move the opposite way that I did with the leaves. Start from the outside and then pull to the middle, and then what I do is I'll let these three crust a little bit before I do the others, just because I don't want them to all turn into this giant blob, because I have been known for letting my flowers turn into blobs. Okay, so we're going to pull that in there, and then as you can see here, we're already blobbing, but the good thing is that the daisies have the little middle part, and so once we put in that middle part, those should be good to go. Okay, so for this section, I am going to now be working with some tips. This is my tip number 52, and oh, sorry. This is my tip 52, and it's actually one of my favorite tips for florals. Thank you, Jennifer. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to create some little clusters. And so what I like to do is I just push, 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 and then push up. Let me get my, okay, I'll get an empty cookie to show you guys that, because I'm pretty sure I did do a good job of. So this is an empty cookie. So I'm just going to show you guys what I do with this tip is, can you guys see that good? Yeah, so I push, pull, push, pull, push, pull, push, pull, and then push in the middle and stop. It's so easy, and I think it looks so good. Look what Maria says, what color did you flood the puzzle? The white daisy contrasts very nicely. Thank you so much. This is just Chef Master Gold, just a tiny bit, not too much, and just a tiny bit, one drop of the Cookie Countess Airbrush Ivory Towers. So I like using airbrush colors when I'm looking for a light shade, because they're not as pigmented as your regular gel colors. So yeah, I'd say one drop, a really small drop of the Ivory Towers, and then just the tiniest. If you want, you can use your toothpick. I'm a fan of using toothpicks if I need a color that is really soft and I don't want to go too much. So yeah, just the tiniest toothpick amount, the tiniest of Chef Master Gold, because I'm not sure if I am a fan of Chef Master. No, sorry. See, I combined two sentences, and no, I was not trying to say I'm not sure if I'm a fan of Chef Master. I was going to say I'm not sure if I'm the only one who noticed it, but that gold Chef Master color is extremely pigmented for some reason. I can use just a little bit, and I get a lot of color out of that. And so just trying to add these in wherever I can, because like I mentioned, we do want to get a good amount of flowers here in the middle. Brenda says smart to use airbrush colors. Girl, that is my go-to for I am killing, I call it my version of killing two birds with one stone. I love using airbrush colors to color my sets if I want a nice light or pastel-y color, and that way I also have tons of airbrush colors on standby, and I can use them for airbrushing or for coloring my regular sets. So, and you guys might have this a little bit easier than me. Like I mentioned, I hate to keep saying it, but like I mentioned, we are in our rainy season, and so I haven't been doing cookies a lot just because of that, because I get really frustrated with the fact that I'll leave something to crust and it won't crust because of the weather, and I don't find it practical to run my air conditioning in my cookie decorating room 24/7. I mean, that's, you know, not in this economy. And so I am not happy with how my cookies are turning out in this weather. So I am kind of on a little bit of a break from custom orders right now. But when I do custom orders, I do need to run that air conditioning so we don't have those little blobs happening. And I don't have a dehydrator, which I know is something that I should probably get for where I live. So I should look into that. Okay, so I have this. This is tip 16, just a Wilton tip 16. It kind of looks janky. I got it from my mother-in-law when I first started making cookies. She had them back when she used to make cookies, and so if it's not broken, don't fix it, right? So those are what I have been using for most of my tips. And for this one, we are going to do something a little bit different. So we're going to pull up. I hope I did a good job of showing that. So if your icing will allow you to lift off of it, then you can just pull up. Like if it allows you to stop and pull and then pull, and you can do dots like that. Mine won't right now, or at least it won't the way I want to, so I kind of just prefer to do it continuous, and then you pull that up for those flowers. So I'm going to do that again here, and yeah, I think that's looking pretty good. I wish my white wasn't doing whatever it's doing. Oh guys, you know what's really funny? I was wondering why, yeah, that's super funny. I was wondering why this yellow is so loose. I was using the wrong icing, and so that is actually medium consistency, and I have my piping consistency yellow sitting here beside me, and I just noticed it. So doesn't matter. You can think of the bottom as the base, and so now we're just adding extra details on top, and it's all good. Oh, I think I remember what I was going to say earlier about loving these designs. I think my favorite part about these designs and a lot of the designs that I do is that there's a lot of space to make mistakes. I make a lot of mistakes while I'm doing my cookies. I always want to go live, like on Instagram, to show people how I decorate my cookies, and one of the things that stops me is just the fact that I make so many mistakes while I'm doing my cookies, and I feel so bad, and I don't want anyone to see me like that, and so that stops me. But today you guys can kind of see those mistakes with me. So yeah, I used the wrong consistency there, but we're going to go in with the right consistency on top and fix that up, so no worries there. The consistency I used was actually for my bees that I'm going to be adding in after. So there we go. Okay, so I have this piping consistency pink. It's like a peachy pink color, It is just the Wilton, the regular Wilton colors in peach. Yeah, I believe that's the name. And so we are just going to use that color to add some more flowers over here. These ones are gonna have the petals like the daisies. Hopefully they don't mush together like the daisies did. And the good thing about, well, it's not really a good thing, is it? But this is kind of easy to fix. You can just go in with another layer on top once it dries. I'm not sure if I'll be able to show that today, just because mine is probably not going to dry quick enough for me to show you guys that. But yeah, it's an easy fix. You can just go in and undo the flowers again, and no problem there. Okay, so I'm now going to use a medium consistency of that same pinkish color to flood in those flowers. Okay, and just like before, I don't want to flood the ones that are directly beside each other right off the bat, because I want to give those some time to, you know, mold together, I guess you could. To crust over. Okay, so I'm just going to add in some more leaves where I see fit. So it's just kind of random, but enough leaves that the more leaves you add, the less flowers you have to add. And so you can decide which one you prefer to work with and which one you prefer to add more of. It really just depends on the design that you're going for. I personally like to add more leaves, less flowers. I feel that that looks pretty, but you know, to each their own. And it looks really pretty regardless in either way. So if you find yourself wanting more color, like for me, I feel like this is a bit lacking color, then I like to just add other stems and then add little dots of flowers that can kind of just brighten up a bit. And you'll notice that I'm working, I kind of like working from right to left with the colors staying on one side, if that makes sense. So I work with yellow, then I'll work with whites, then I'll work with this, then I'll work with that, then I'll work with the pink. I find that that looks pretty, but it also looks really pretty. I think, well, I haven't tried it before, but I think it would also look really pretty if you just do random colors all around. Okay, so for this, I am going to just add in some of this color here and that looks pretty too. And I think in terms of flowers, I have added what I wanted to. So for these daisies, for the middle of the daisies, I think I'm just going to add a squeeze of this. Yeah, I think that looks good for now. So just a squeeze of this, there we go. And that should be good to go. I am going to take that medium consistency pink and flood in the rest of this pink flower that's to the edge here. So we're going to flood that in. This doesn't have to look perfect. Flowers don't look that perfect in the wild, and they're still really pretty. So don't pressure yourself to make any of this look perfect. Okay, and now I think we can go ahead and add the bees. Yeah, I think we can add the bees now. So I just find random places, and then I'll take this and I'll create those little ovals that look like bees. So we're going to add a bee here. Maybe we could get one here, and one here, one here, and then one there. Okay. So for the wings, I just like to add two dots of white, and they'll look like the little wings. I'm not sure if I'll be able to paint the wing, paint the black line on the bees, because my icing isn't drying enough, and so I'm not sure if that will be possible, but we'll see. Okay, so I'm gonna take this white and I'm going to use it to add the middle of the pink flowers here, just so that there's a nice contrast. I probably should have done that yellow, but it's fine. And I think outside of, oh, I should probably find something to put there to cover up that. And Geeji says, I hope I'm not butchering your name. Love how all the elements are coming together. Yeah, right? At first I thought, I was like, maybe I shouldn't have done this, because what am I doing? But yeah, they always, I don't know if I'm the only person who hates my cookies before they're done. I don't even know how to get into it. When I first started, I would cry. I would literally go to bed crying, telling my husband I'm quitting cookies. You know, but yeah, of course I can show you guys a close-up. Let me take my phone off of the tip, and you can see that I had that really not my favorite flood going on earlier, and now that everything is coming together, you can barely see the flood and how bad it is. But what I'm going to do is try not to, the first thing I'm going to do is try not to drop this phone on this. I am going to run and grab a bowl so that I can show you guys the consistencies, since I forgot to do that. It's gonna take 1 second, I promise. Okay, I am back. So I got a bowl. So let me show you guys what my piping consistency icing looks like in a bowl. So this is it. Sorry about that. This is it fresh squeezed out of the piping bag. And then I'm just going to kind of move it around with my spatula. Can you guys tell that I'm a professional at this? Oh my gosh. But yeah, this is what it looks like. So if you pull it up, it kind of looks, I've been calling it toothpaste consistency. I heard about toothpaste consistency when I was starting, and I think this is it. It kind of looks like what toothpaste would look like. So like I mentioned before, you don't want it too stiff, because if you do a lot of detail work like me, you are definitely going to hurt your hands if you use icing that's too stiff. I can't tell you how many times that I have hurt my hands working on a long project and using icing that's too stiff. So that is what your piping consistency is going to look like. And then I'm just going to show you guys what the medium is going to look like in that same bowl. You guys should see me over here in this corner just making a mess. Brenda said, I missed the beginning. How big are the individual cookies? I love this look. Brenda, you are asking, you're asking a good question. How big are these hexagon cutters? I think they are 3.5, 3.25. I forgot to mention that another thing I don't do is, since I don't price my cookies by size or anything, I rarely know what size my cutters are, but I do believe that these hexagon cutters are 3.25 or 3.5. Yeah. Okay, and this is what our medium consistency looks like. As you can see, it's way different than the other one in the sense that it can't hold any type of shape. It's nice and kind of, this one is more like a really loose soft serve, like it can flow off the spatula. And so that's what I use when I'm mentioning medium consistency. They're close enough, but really different, as you could have told when I did this part using the medium consistency rather than the piping consistency, how everything was kind of flowing together. And so yeah, that is it. Basically, I really wish that I could show you guys how I paint the little bees, but since they are extremely wet right now, I don't think that that's going to be a good idea. If I end up finishing up and painting them later, I'll post a picture. I'll see if I can post a picture with the finished look. But that is everything, guys. And so we are at the hour. So like I said, it took me an hour to do these. In your conditions, in your kitchen, it might take you way quicker, because my issues right now is that the layers aren't drying between, just because of the weather. But yeah, this should take you like an hour, and you can sell them for a really good price for the amount of effort you put in. And I'm telling you, your customers will love them. I have, since I posted my first picture of these, I've had so many customers order them, and so you should be good to go. So just show you guys a close-up again. And thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope I did a good job. This was my first live, so feel free to drop any tips that you need if you're watching the playback and are like, oh my god, Geeji, you did such a bad job at this. This is what you should do. I will not mind at all. So bye guys.